There's an old song. I don't even know if I know the right words, but it's like, who loves you, pretty mama? Who's gonna, you know that song? I think about that song sometimes. I just like the jingle of it, but I think, who loves you? Who loves you? Not a rhetorical question. Tell me, who loves you? Just shout it out. Good, good. All right, we got some other people in the room who loves us. Who else loves you?
My kids.
Your kids?
Siblings.
Who?
Siblings.
Siblings? Who else loves you?
My dog.
Say that again.
My dog.
Your dog. Who else loves you? Who? Who? God. Yes. That was what I was waiting for. God loved us first, and then we love one another. Do you remember the first time you were in love? And if you're not old enough then, do you remember a time when you were so excited that your heart like skipped a beat? That love that you felt, that goodness that you felt? That's God's desire for us, is to feel that all the time. Today, there are three people who are put in front of us. We have a Pharisee, a tax collector, and Paul. Now, the Pharisee was not a bad person. He was a good person. The Pharisaic line were the people that were responsible for maintaining the temple, for holding the temple in a good place, for making sure it was clean, to make sure that it was always welcoming. So he was doing his job, and his tithing, he wasn't tithing his net worth, he was tithing his gross, which is more than what was asked. So he was giving more than others. And when he talked about his fasting, a good Jew needed to fast once a year, right at Yom Kippur. But he fasts twice a week. So he fasts a lot more than he needed to. And so he was doing all the right things. He was being very righteous. But his fault line was that it was all about him. He was informing God of all that he was doing. He was like, God, I just want to let you know that I got this. I got it all together. I know how to tithe. I know how to fast. I know how to be a good Pharisee. And that's what he was all about. And in our lives, we know that all the good gifts, all the things that make us capable of doing good in this world, first come from God. But for the Pharisee, he couldn't see that. All he could see was himself, kind of like the great I am. The tax collector over in the corner was another side to that same coin. Now, I want to draw kind of a parallel. The tax collector lied and cheated to people. And when he went to God, he asked for mercy. And mercy is different than I'm going to change my ways. Mercy is stop everybody from hating me, give me some friends, like make my life a little bit better. God, have mercy. Now, what was going on, if I can make a parallel, that back in Jesus' day, right, we have the big Mediterranean, and there's Rome in the north that's doing land grabs, all the way flowing east and then south into Judah, which is the land out of which our Gospels come. And as Rome was taking over that land, of course, they were taxing it because they wanted that money. In a similar way, how Putin is land grabbing eastern Ukraine, and he's pulling those regions, and this past week, he signed into law, martial law, and he said Ukrainians are going to enforce martial law on other Ukrainians. In the same way that Rome said Judeans are going to enforce the tax collecting on other Judeans. All right, so we have this parallel just to help us understand what's going on. But what happened in Jesus' day with the tax collectors is they didn't get paid a whole lot. So they had to take from people they knew and give it to the tax manager, let's say, who then gave it to Rome. So if they wanted to be in good standing, they would give a little extra to the tax manager, because that would help them perhaps get a promotion or be seen in a good way. So if this family owed, let's say, 5 denarii, the tax collector would ask for 6, so that he could give 6 to the tax manager. But what he also would do is he would ask maybe for another denarii, maybe 7 denarii, because he needed to pocket some himself, because he wasn't paid very well. So he lied and he cheated on this end so that he could be in better standing with them, and so that he could be a little bit better off monetarily. So that was his thing, but he didn't say to Jesus, he didn't pray and say, I'm going to change my ways. He just said, have mercy on me. Don't let them hate me. Don't let them hate me, because he was in a tough spot. Then we see Paul. And Paul, as we all know, first Saul, was in a Pharisaic line. So like the Pharisee that we learned about, Paul was a good Jew. He was from a family who took care of the temple. He knew his Torah. He knew his scriptures. He knew his prayers. He loved his God. He loved his religion, his temple. And so when the Jesus followers started bubbling up, he was afraid that they were going to tear down the temple. And in that fear, he went after them. And we know what he did. He persecuted people. He killed people. He was awful to the Jesus followers. Until that day when he met Jesus on the road to Damascus and was changed. And we know his name was changed from Saul to Paul at that point, because it was then that he realized who Jesus was, not against the temple, but who came from the temple. And then Paul changed his life. He turned around and he asked for forgiveness. And he asked for forgiveness throughout his life, knowing that he was a sinner. But at the same time, he knew God gave him that spark in his heart, that skip your heartbeat, like that first kind of love that we all know. And he used that love to come out of the shadows and step into the light and live as fully as he could. And that's our message for today. The beautiful theology that we have, the theology of saint and sinner, that I can make this world spectacular and I can ruin this world, because I am capable of both in my life. But God loves me over and over and over again, forgives me over and over, justifies me, and makes me free to live as fully as possible. That's the message for all of us. God is crazy about you, falling in love with you each and every day. And God will run every single race with you, will fight every fight with you, will be with you every moment of your life. Who loves you, pretty mama or daddy? Who's gonna take you through the night? Who's crazy about you? The God who washes us clean through the waters of baptism. The God who nourishes us at the table and through the word. So we can live fully and freely with God in our life as lovers in the world.